Okay, so, we often hear about these big, large-scale educational reforms, right?
Yeah. The grand plans, the national strategies.
Exactly. But the real work, the actual doing of education, that really happens on the ground in, individual schools dealing with their own stuff.
Their own unique circumstances, absolutely.
And that's exactly what we're diving into today. We're looking closely at the story of one specific place, Government Boys High School Ghulam Jilani in District Pishin, Pakistan.
Right. And what we're using for this exploration today, it's basically excerpts, bits of text that give us a glimpse into the school's past and, well, where it stands now.
Yeah, it's a focused view, not trying to paint a picture of the whole country.
No, not at all. It's more about seeing what this one school's journey, its challenges, can reveal about those, very real local efforts in education.
Exactly. So the mission, if you like, is to understand the evolution, the effort, the hurdles within this one school. What can its story tell us?
Okay. Sounds good. Where does the story begin?
It starts back in 1985. And interestingly, as a primary school, in the village mosque.
Oh, wow. In the mosque itself.
Yeah.
That tells you something right away, doesn't it? About the value placed on learning, maybe using whatever space was available to just get started.
And the person who started it, late Ghulam Jilani Nasaran, was actually the founder of the village, too.
Really? So a key figure in the community starting the school. That speaks volumes about individual leadership, at that very local level.
Definitely. And that initial setup in the mosque, it wasn't the end game. By 1993, Nassar had donated land specifically for a primary school building.
Okay. So moving towards something more permanent, a real investment.
The clear commitment, yeah. Then things seemed to take another big step forward in 2006.
Right. The Balochistan Japan School project. That comes up.
Exactly. It upgraded the school to middle level, and this sounds like it was, well, quite substantial.
How so?
The source calls it a well-planned project. It brought actual buildings, staff recruitment, even a lab and a library.
Okay, so that's a significant jump in resources and facilities, not just a name change.
Seems like it. Why are projects like that, these sort of external partnership projects, often so impactful, do you think?
Well, they often come with, dedicated funding, a clear plan.
Yeah.
They're not just adding a grade level. They're usually looking at the whole picture, infrastructure, teacher support, materials. It's a more holistic approach.
Right, makes sense. It shows what targeted resources can do. But then the story takes another turn. 2016.
Okay, what happened then?
Upgraded again, this time to high school level, by the government of Balochistan. But here's the catch.
Uh-oh. I sense a but.
A big but. This upgrade, unlike the middle school one, apparently didn't come with the necessary facilities. They were lacking classrooms for the new grades, no staff room, no exam hall.
So a high school in name, but maybe not in resources?
Pretty much no proper high school science lab either, and even basic utilities like water and gas connections were missing.
Wow. That's a tough situation. Upgrading status without matching resources, it's unfortunately not that uncommon.
Really?
Yeah. And it creates this huge gap, right,
Yeah.
between what the school is supposed to offer and what it actually can offer. What do you think the impact of that is long term?
Well, I imagine it's incredibly difficult. You're a high schooler, but you can't do proper science experiments. Maybe classes are overcrowded. It limits what students can learn and must be frustrating for teachers, too.
Definitely limits opportunities.
So let's fast forward to the present day, based on our info. The school's district Pishin, Union Council, Poti, Nasaran, Tehsil Karazat, gives us the specific location.
And there's a new headmaster, Habib Rahman Nazar, took charge fairly recently, May 2024.
Yeah, and it seems his arrival marks a bit of a turning point, or at least a new phase of activity.
Okay. What does the school look like now, student-wise?
Okay, so 330 students total. But get this, 310 boys and only 20 girls.
Whoa. 310 to 20. That's a really significant imbalance.
It jumped out at me, too. What could be behind a ratio like that?
Oh, it's usually complex. It can be cultural norms about girls' education, maybe concerns about safety traveling to school, economic factors. Sometimes boys' education is just prioritized more in certain contexts.
It definitely raises questions about access for girls there.
Yeah, and what might be needed to, even things out a bit.
And what about the teachers?
Staffing. Okay, it says 13 working teachers, but there are 19 sanctioned positions.
So they're short-staffed by 6 teachers. No, wait, 7.
7 teachers short, yeah. That's a fair number. That must put a strain on the ones who are there.
How big a deal is a gap like that? practically speaking.
It's significant. It can mean bigger classes, less individual attention, teachers being stretched thin, maybe having to cover subjects outside their special area. It definitely impacts the quality and breadth of education.
Right. Okay, infrastructure now. They have 10 classrooms, 1 lab, and interestingly, a functional digital resource room.
Oh, that's positive.
Mm.
Shows some engagement with technology despite other issues.
Yeah, and 10 functional toilets, which is also important.
Definitely. But then there's a list of what's missing. 2 more rooms needed for the high school grades. Still no exam hall.
And that acute water shortage is mentioned again, plus the lack of a proper high school science lab and those missing water and gas connections we talked about.
So a mix of some basics covered, some tech creeping in, but still some really fundamental infrastructure gaps.
But it's not all challenges. The sources really highlight the positive changes since the current headmaster, Habib Rahman Nasar, took over.
Ah, okay. So he's been active since May 2024.
Seems like it. There's quite a list of improvements in a relatively short time, like a cleanliness drive for the schoolyard. Simple, but makes a difference.
Absolutely. A clean environment matters. What else?
Repairing lab equipment, the existing stuff, painting cupboards and doors, fixing tiles, sorting out electrical wiring for fans. Basic maintenance, but sounds like it was needed.
Yeah, those things add up, making the place more functional, more pleasant.
And repairing IT equipment, the printer. Even compiling school records properly in hard copy for the first time.
Okay, that last one, compiling records. That sounds fundamental, but also like a big task if it wasn't done before. Shows attention to detail, organization.
And it mentions these things are documented with photos, which adds a layer of, proof and transparency.
Good practice. Tangible evidence of the work being done.
Then there's funding. In October 2024, they got a grant RS, $515,000.
Right.
UNICEF and the Education Support Program, ESP Pishin.
Okay, that's a decent sum. How was it used? That's always the key question.
Right, and the list is specific. Constructing new washrooms, painting the lab, installing a solar system that's interesting, maybe tackling power issues.
Could be. Solar is a common solution in areas with unreliable electricity. What else?
Setting up multimedia, repairing windows, putting up grills for security.
So very practical things, addressing sanitation, energy security, learning resources. It sounds like a well-thought-out use of the funds.
The source even contrasts it with previous heads, suggesting this use of funds was maybe more effective or strategic.
That implies good leadership and management of those resources, which is crucial.
It also mentions something about providing goods and services to feeder schools, like the local primary schools, in 2023-2024. Apparently that hadn't happened for a long time.
That's really positive. Looking beyond just their own walls and supporting the schools that feed into them builds the whole local system.
And it says this was appreciated by something called the CMIT Cluster Management Information Team and the community.
Right. So strengthening the local education network, that's a good sign.
And it's not just repairs and finances. They've also apparently tried to improve the school environment itself.
How so?
Planting trees and flowers in March 2025. Roses, almond, pomegranate, cherry trees, things like that. Says it's the first time in 15 years.
Wow. After 15 years. That's more than just cosmetic, isn't it? It's about creating a more welcoming, maybe even inspiring place to be.
Yeah, improving morale, maybe fostering a sense of pride in the school.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Small things can have a big psychological impact.
And directly helping students, too, providing books, school bags, notebooks in March 2025. Basic necessities for learning.
Absolutely essential. Can't learn effectively without the tools.
The source also notes school enrollment has increased, and importantly, the gender ratio has improved slightly, though it's still very skewed.
Okay, so increased enrollment and a slight improvement for girls. That might suggest the changes are being noticed, maybe building some community trust.
Could be a positive trend, anyway.
But there's always but, isn't there?
Yes. Despite all this progress, the list of current problems is still, well, pretty long and serious.
Okay, lay it on us. What are they still grappling with?
The water shortage is still listed as a key problem. Shortage of primary school teachers may be impacting the feeder schools or preparedness.
Yeah, it could be. What else?
Still short on rooms, still lacking science apparatus for experiments, problems with building maintenance like room leakage, seepage, doors and windows needing repair.
So ongoing infrastructure and maintenance issues, those can really drain resources and impact the learning environment.
Definitely. And then just basic things. Need for room decoration, whitewashing, cement plastering for boundary walls.
Right, keeping the place up.
And a lack of basic furniture and supplies. No teacher tables, need for carpets for students, maybe they sit on the floor, need for new or repaired student desks.
That's pretty fundamental. Lack of proper seating, desks, tables.
And here's a concerning point. The source notes a general lack of stationery, reading-writing materials, furniture, even student uniforms, and funds for building repair, and says the headmaster couldn't elaborate on the reasons why these aren't available.
Ah, he couldn't explain the lack of these very basic things.
Apparently not, according to the text.
That does raise a flag, doesn't it? It points towards potential issues maybe higher up the chain, like with district authorities or funding flows, if the headmaster on the ground doesn't know why basic supplies aren't there.
Yeah, it suggests a disconnect or a problem with the support system the school is supposed to have. The source itself says this should concern district authorities.
You'd think so. Needs investigation, surely.
But looking forward, despite these ongoing serious issues, there does seem to be a plan, a vision.
Okay, what's the outlook?
Well, efforts to change the school culture, students' habits, encourage learning. That focus on the soft side of things.
Which is just as important as the buildings, yeah.
Yeah.
Creating a positive learning environment.
Their stated mission is to ensure a smooth and exemplary educational environment.
Ambitious, but a good goal to aim for.
And concrete plans, too. Academic improvement initiatives. Setting up discipline rules via a committee that involves the DEO, the District Education Officer.
Okay, involving the district level in a structured way. That's good.
And they plan to create a proper school development plan, collaborating with UNICEF.
Excellent. A formal plan, especially with a partner like UNICEF, could really help structure their efforts and maybe attract more support.
Plus, a commitment to using funds transparently, following financial rules.
Crucial for building and maintaining trust, especially given the questions about missing resources earlier.
And finally, they're forming an academic council. Its job. To run assessments and track student learning outcomes, SLOs.
Focusing on results. Measuring if the teaching is actually leading to learning gains. That's key for continuous improvement.
So wrapping this up, what are the big takeaways from this deep dive into just one school? For me, it's really a story of, well, resilience.
Absolutely. Resilience and the real power of individual dedication. You see the founder's initial impact and now the current headmaster driving change against some pretty significant odds.
Yeah, that local leadership seems vital.
It really underscores how much depends on the people on the ground, their commitment.
And the aha moment for me, I think, is seeing how much tangible progress can be made with focused leadership, even with limited resources. Those specific repairs, the solar panels, the tree planting, they add up.
Right. It shows that targeted action, even small wins, can build momentum and really shift the environment. It's not always about massive budgets. Sometimes it's about smart, dedicated effort.
So, thinking about you, the listener, this close look at one school, Government Boys High School Ghulam Jilani, it gives us a window, doesn't it, into the wider world of education.
It reminds us that behind all the policy talk, there are real people, teachers, heads, students, communities working incredibly hard every single day, facing challenges we might not even think about.
Dealing with water shortages, lack of desks, teacher gaps, but still pushing forward.
Exactly. They're shaping young minds under sometimes very difficult circumstances.
So maybe the final thought to leave you with is this. What are those unseen efforts happening in schools in your community? What are the challenges they face, and what difference could a bit more focused attention, a bit more support actually make?